My wife texted her friend, "I only married him for his money." A month later, she filed for divorce, but in court, she found out I'd moved every dollar to my mother's name, and I only had $10 left for her to take. We met at a charity gala downtown, one of those carefully curated events where nobody eats the hors d'oeuvres, but everyone pretends they care about the cause. She moved through the room like she owned it, flawless posture, laughter practiced, charm dialed in like a weapon. Her name was Rachel. I remember how she locked eyes with me from across the room, tilted her head slightly like she'd already decided I was worth her time. I fell for it, completely. For a year, everything seemed perfect. She played the part to perfection, attentive, supportive, always dressed like a catalog cover wife. The compliments were endless. She'd lean on me in public like I was her anchor, and in private, she talked about building a future together. There were times I actually believed she loved me, but that illusion didn't last. It was a Thursday night when everything cracked. I came home late from a meeting, nothing unusual, and found her curled up on the couch, phone angled just far enough that she didn't see me come in. The screen lit up, bright against the dim room, and a message preview popped up from someone named Cass. I caught one sentence before she noticed me and quickly tucked the phone away. I only married him for his money. Once the divorce hits, I'm set for life. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I smiled, walked past her, and said I was tired. She bought it. That was her first real mistake. She thought I was naive. That night, I took a screenshot of the message when she fell asleep. Then I sat in my study for hours, not in anger, not in heartbreak, just silence. Cold calculation. Every move I made after that was deliberate. There was no yelling, no confrontation. I didn't even treat her any differently. She still got her morning coffee just the way she liked it, and I still listened when she talked about her day. She thought I was drifting away emotionally. The truth was, I was just buying time. The next morning, I called my financial advisor. We'd worked together for years, and when I told him what needed to happen, he didn't ask questions. Every account with my name on it began to shrink, not through spending, but transfer. My assets were filtered piece by piece into irrevocable trusts, all registered under my mother's name. Real estate? Reassigned. Investment portfolios? Legally distanced from me. Even my stake in the company I helped build was adjusted, with dividends rerouted and ownership shifted. I had to be subtle. Any sudden drop in lifestyle and she'd get suspicious. So I maintained everything. Dinners, small vacations, even the occasional gift to keep her convinced. Meanwhile, my bank account emptied until only a token sum remained, $10, sitting like a quiet threat in a hollow vault. And then I waited. Exactly 4 weeks later, I walked into the house after a run and found her standing by the kitchen island, crisp folder in hand, her expression carefully rehearsed. "We need to talk," she said, like she expected me to crumble. "Divorce papers." She handed them to me like she was doing me a favor, already thinking about the house, the cars, the lifestyle she assumed she'd be walking away with. I nodded once, told her I understood. She smirked. "I'll have my lawyer contact you." I just said, "Sure." 2 weeks passed. Her attorney demanded a full financial disclosure. I complied. It was only one page, a bank account with $10 and a list of debts still in my name. I walked into court on the day of the hearing wearing the same suit I'd worn to our wedding, polished but plain, and handed over the file with no expression. She arrived dressed like she was expecting a victory parade, her lawyer beaming with premature confidence. That confidence didn't last. As the judge flipped through the documents, her lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently. I could see the confusion building, the rapid blinking, the slow realization. Rachel shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her eyes searched mine like maybe this was all some mistake. That's when I handed the judge the printed screenshot. One line of text changed everything. I only married him for his money. The judge read it, looked at her, then looked at me. Silence filled the courtroom for a long, perfect moment. Her face drained of color. Her lawyer suddenly wanted a recess. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked under the weight of it all. I sat there calm, hands folded, watching the facade crumble. Her carefully crafted role, loyal wife, unsuspecting victim, shattered in front of the court. She came in expecting to walk away with millions. She left with nothing but a file, a damaged reputation, and a silence that followed her out the doors like a shadow. The silence that followed the courtroom hearing didn't end when the gavel came down. Rachel didn't say a word as she stood up, didn't look in my direction as she gathered her purse with shaky hands. Her lawyer, suddenly drained of all confidence, mumbled something about next steps before walking her out like a nurse escorting a patient from bad news. The courtroom emptied slowly, with murmurs bouncing between wooden benches, people pretending not to stare while taking mental notes of a divorce case turned spectacle. I left alone. I didn't need anyone waiting for me outside. I'd already done everything I came to do. By the time I pulled into my mother's driveway, my phone had buzzed 3 times. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Rachel had never dealt with silence from me before. She was the one who went quiet during arguments, who used silence like leverage, who believed she had control every time I didn't push back. But now that I wasn't reacting, now that she realized she'd bet on a future she didn't own, panic had begun to set in. I left the phone face down on the passenger seat. Inside, Mom had tea waiting plain, nothing dramatic, and a look that said she knew. She always did. I didn't have to explain much to her. The papers had her name on them. The bank accounts, the trusts, the new corporate shares, all of it carefully rerouted and protected under her legal umbrella. This wasn't a betrayal of marriage. It was a correction. Was it bad? She asked. I shook my head. No, just final. She nodded once. We didn't need a long discussion. She'd raised me to handle things with control, not emotion. I wasn't there to cry over a broken relationship. I was there to finish the plan. There was still more to do. The next morning, I met with my legal team. Quietly, without noise or drama, we initiated steps to reclaim personal property, things I'd loaned her, assets temporarily under her control, items that weren't legally hers to keep. The car in her name but paid with my money? Repossessed. The condo she kept furnished with things I'd bought? Every receipt was cataloged, every detail accounted for. If she wanted war, she'd get it, but only in paperwork. No public statements. No accusations on social media. Just cold, strategic dismantling. Within days, her tone changed. The text turned from cold demands to guilt-laced appeals. We both said things we didn't mean. Maybe we rushed into court. This doesn't have to end like this. Let's talk. I miss us. I didn't reply. There was no us. There had only ever been her plan and my mistake in believing it. She wasn't messaging out of love. She was drowning, and I wasn't extending a hand. Her lawyer called mine a week later, asking if there was room for reconciliation. The legal term for she didn't get what she came for. My attorney laughed quietly after the call ended. They're flailing, he said. You crushed them without ever raising your voice. That same day, Rachel posted a photo of herself online alone at some rooftop event, drink in hand, captioned with something vague and falsely upbeat like, just focusing on what matters now. It was a public performance meant to save face, to rewrite the narrative. But the comments told the truth. People weren't buying it. Her closest circle knew the court fallout. A few mutual acquaintances even reached out to me privately, curious but polite. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't interested in explaining what she'd done or defending myself. I had the only vindication I needed. While Rachel scrambled to contain her image, I moved on to securing the rest. The trust was airtight, but I wasn't interested in letting anything slip back into vulnerability. I took time off from work and had everything evaluated, my company shares, the rental properties, the private assets, ensuring full separation between myself and the shell of marriage she'd once leaned on for comfort. Every time her name came up in a document, I had it scrubbed. If her signature was on anything in my life, I found a way to erase it. Not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. She was a risk. And I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. One night, about a month after the hearing, I got a letter. Handwritten, no return address, but I knew the writing immediately. Rachel. She didn't dare come to the house, not after everything that had happened. The envelope was thick, a few pages folded neatly inside. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the desk while I made dinner, went about the night as if it didn't exist. Only when I had nothing else left to do did I finally unfold the first page. It was everything I expected. No apology, no admission of guilt, just revision. She painted herself as a woman cornered, manipulated by friends, misunderstood by everyone. She claimed the message I'd found was taken out of context, that she never meant it seriously, said she was venting, said it was a joke between friends, said I'd blindsided her with the financial gains and that all she ever wanted was security. That word again, security. Not love, not partnership, just the comfort of someone else's effort. The second page asked if we could talk, said she didn't want to be enemies, said we'd once been close and that maybe time could fix it. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. She already knew the answer. Her empire had been built on assumption, assuming I'd stay soft, assuming the court would lean her way, assuming money would always be within reach. But she'd built on sand. And when the tide came, everything she stood on vanished. 2 weeks after that letter, she tried again, this time through a friend. Megan, a mutual acquaintance from the same gala where we first met, invited me to coffee under the guise of catching up. She brought up Rachel casually, acting like she didn't know the full story, hinting that maybe things had been misunderstood. I listened politely, nodded in all the right places, then paid the bill and left. I wasn't interested in circles. I was done playing polite. By now, Rachel had moved back into her parents' house. Word got around, as it always does. The apartment she'd rented after the divorce became too expensive. Her job, more of a placeholder she rarely showed up to, wasn't enough to cover the lifestyle she was used to. And the friends who once circled her like satellites had started drifting. It turns out, people are only loyal when the glitter sticks. She had no empire, just echoes. But the damage she tried to do hadn't touched me, because I didn't panic when I found that message. I didn't throw accusations. I didn't fall into the trap of trying to fix what was broken. I made decisions, not noise. I still remember the last thing she said to me in court, right after the judge dismissed her claims and denied her any compensation. She turned and muttered under her breath, "You really never loved me, did you?" I didn't answer then, but if I had, I would have said this. I did. You just thought that meant you could take everything. What she didn't realize was that the moment she typed that message to her friend, she gave me something more valuable than any legal loophole. She gave me truth. Undeniable, time-stamped truth. And with it, she gave me power. Now, my life is quiet. I work when I want, travel when I choose, spend time with people who don't wear masks. I don't explain my past, don't unpack it for others. It's done. I don't need closure because I never left the door open. Rachel may still be searching for a version of the story where she's the one wronged, still building explanations that soften the facts. But facts don't need defending. They just are. And she'll live with the one fact that matters most. She walked into court expecting to take everything and walked out with less than she walked in with. 6 months passed. Rachel's name had vanished from my life the way a bad dream dissolves when daylight hits. Not because I tried to forget, but because she no longer had access to anything that could tether her to my world. I'd finished every loose end quietly and with precision. No shared accounts, no co-owned property, no lingering obligations. The courts had issued the final decree, not contested, not appealed. It was finished on paper, and in my mind, it had been finished long before that. She tried once more, one last time, with a message that came late one evening. No paragraph, no apology, just a single sentence. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I didn't respond. She knew I had nothing left to say. I spent the following weeks doing the final cleanup, things only I would think of. Canceling subscriptions she once used, purging old photos from hard drives, making sure even the backup email addresses linked to shared accounts were gone. I wasn't doing it out of spite. I was doing it to clear the field. Rachel had built a plan on taking from a man she believed would always let her win. She'd miscalculated the entire foundation. Eventually, I took a trip out of state. Just a few days, nothing extravagant. I wasn't trying to escape. I wanted clarity. Sometimes a different place lets your mind breathe without having to force it. During that trip, I started going over every move I'd made, what I'd done right, what I might have done sooner. And I realized something that put everything into place. Rachel didn't ruin me. She revealed me. Before her, I'd never had a reason to guard anything. I thought vulnerability was strength. I thought marriage meant trust. But her betrayal didn't destroy me, it refined me. She gave me eyes for detail, patience for timing, and a backbone made of restraint. I didn't react, I responded. That was the difference. Back home, life fell into a new rhythm. My mother, who had been the silent guardian of my assets during the process, returned everything legally back to my name once the dust fully settled. Every document she handed over had been notarized, airtight, and verified. What Rachel had tried to secure through manipulation was now locked tighter than ever under my name, by my terms. The trust remained, but now under my full control. Not a dollar moved without my knowledge. I changed the locks on the properties I kept, installed new security systems, cleared out the condo where Rachel once played house like it was a stage. I replaced furniture, had the walls painted, even changed the flooring in the master bedroom. It wasn't about aesthetics. It was about erasing her blueprint. She had built a life in my space thinking it was hers. Now it reflected only me. Friends began reaching out more. Not because they pitied me, they respected what I'd done. There was something unspoken in the way people addressed me now. A kind of caution. Not fear, but understanding. I'd shown what it looked like to dismantle betrayal without losing composure. People remembered that. One afternoon, while checking on the last of the rental properties, I ran into an old acquaintance who'd once gone to dinner with Rachel and me during our marriage. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't bring up the divorce. Instead, he said, "I heard how you handled it." That was solid. Most people would have lost everything. I just nodded. I wasn't doing interviews. I wasn't building a reputation. I was just finishing a story that had started with a lie and ended with the truth. A month later, I learned Rachel had started working full-time again. Not a passion job. Something she could manage without qualifications. Word had it she'd moved into a smaller apartment outside the city, nowhere near the places she once bragged about living in. She wasn't starving. She wasn't homeless. But she was living in the exact conditions she feared without someone else's money to hold her up. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't want revenge. I wanted separation. And I had it. Everything came full circle when I got a call from her former lawyer. Not to threaten, not to demand, but to apologize. Not for representing her, but for underestimating the case. He admitted, without prompting, that she had been dishonest with him, hiding the message, withholding her real intentions, and presenting herself as the victim. He said he should have dug deeper before backing her so fully. I told him I appreciated the call. Then I hung up and blocked the number. That was the last time I heard anything connected to Rachel. No loose ends. No unanswered questions. No what-ifs. I returned to work full-time with my company, more focused than ever. The ordeal hadn't distracted me. It sharpened everything. My decision-making was faster. My judgment was cleaner. I had no lingering doubts about the people around me because I'd rebuilt the circle from the ground up. Anyone who stayed was someone I trusted. Anyone who left was someone I didn't chase. Years will pass. People might forget her name. I already had. But I'll never forget the message that changed everything. It wasn't just a sentence. It was a blueprint of her character. I only married him for his money. Once the divorce hits, I'm set for life. That was her plan. And it failed because she didn't understand the man she married. I wasn't weak. I was just quiet. And when the time came, I didn't fight her, I erased her. Cleanly. Completely. Permanently.